Africa's Democratic Republic of Congo is getting closer to constructing the most potent and costly dam that will surpass and generate over 40,000 megawatts of power. It is anticipated that this dam will operate better than China's notorious Three Gorges Dam, which spans the Yangtze River. At a staggering $32 billion, it is currently the greatest hydropower project in the history of the globe. Over 1 million people had to relocate in order to construct it. After it was finished and its 600 square kilometer reservoir was filled, it could hold almost 42 billion tons of water, which caused Earth's rotation to change and add 0.06 milliseconds to the length of daylight. The Three Gorges Dam will only be a fraction of what Inga holds if the Inga Dam is built. Ever since the brutal and harsh colonial era came to an end, the Democratic Republic of Congo, or DRC for short, has had its fair share of problems. The country endured several horrifying wars, a bloody civil war among them. As a result, barely 10% of the people in the Democratic Republic of Congo are connected to the main electricity grid, making it an extremely impoverished nation. The historic Inga I and Inga II dams, which are situated in Congo's central province, provide almost 96% of the country's energy. The combined installed capacity of these two dams is 1775 megawatts. Nevertheless, because of poor maintenance and management, both dams are working at much reduced capacity. Fortunately, both will be refurbished as part of the massive Inga hydropower project. This enormous project is a crucial requirement for the DRC to address its energy issues and financial difficulties, because the Democratic Republic of Congo is so rich in minerals, including diamonds, gold, copper, cobalt, tin, tantalum, and lithium. It shouldn't be impoverished. Nearly 2/3 of the world's cobalt production is accounted for by its wealth in cobalt, which is essential for the shift to sustainable energy globally. In order to fully utilize its enormous wealth, the Democratic Republic of the Congo must become energy self-sufficient, and its people must have access to electricity in order to thrive. These are the primary justifications for the huge Inga Dam's significance, notwithstanding its mind-blowing cost linked to it. Due to its enormous capacity, the dam would undoubtedly benefit the entire continent of Africa by allowing other African countries to buy inexpensive electricity from the DRC. This will inevitably help to accelerate the industrial and economic development of the continent. The Grand Inga Dam, which is set to be constructed by China's Three Gorges Corporation, will be the world's largest high hydropower project. The projected cost is between $80 and $100 billion. It will produce up to 44,000 megawatts of electricity, which is over twice the power generation of the Three Gorges Dam in China, and about 1/3 of the total electricity currently produced in all of Africa. It will not be a single continuous dam, but rather a series of 5 dams on the lower Congo River in the Western Democratic Republic of the Congo, about 150 kilometers upstream of the mouth of the Congo River and 225 kilometers southwest of Kinshasa. The Congo River is the second longest river in Africa at 4,700 kilometers. After the Nile and in the world, it has the second largest flow after the Amazon. It forms the infamous Congo plume when it drains into the equatorial Atlantic Ocean. As one of the world's largest carbon sinks, this plume is a massive global high-productivity area resulting from the rich nutrient flow from the river. It may be detected up to 800 kilometers offshore. Because the Congo River is unique in that it features big rapids and waterfalls relatively close to its mouth, the location for the colossal project is perfect. While most rivers have these features upstream, the Grand Inga Dam will sit on the largest waterfall worldwide by volume. The Inga Falls is a sequence of falls and rapids that descend in altitude through tiny rapids. The primary falls create hundreds of channels, rivulets, and small islands. They are 4 kilometers broad and plummet to around 22 meters near a bend. The Congo River descends 96 meters over 14.5 kilometers at the Grand Inga location. Once built, this mega hydroelectric plant will use at least 80% of the river's water supply. The old Inga I and II dams have been in place since 1972 and 1982, respectively, and the first of the 7 stages of the Grand Inga's construction. Inga 3 is scheduled to start construction in 2026. Each one of the 5 dams that constitute the Grand Inga will feature 52 turbines with a capacity of 750 megawatt or more, which will make it the world's largest dam in terms of hydroelectric production. It is worth noting here that the existing Inga 1 and 2 dams, which are slated to be overhauled, will be considered part of the Grand Dam. Thus, it could be said that the Grand Dam is made of 7, not 5 dams. When the Grand Inga Dam is finished, it will be a genuinely stunning mega project that will completely change Africa, especially if Egypt is successful in connecting the continent to a single gigantic grid that crosses the entire continent. Be aware that Egypt is constructing the massive, one-of-a-kind El Dabaa nuclear station, which, when it is operational and combined with the Inga Dam's production capacity, will solve all of Africa's electricity problems and make the continent a net exporter of electricity to locations like Europe via already existing underwater cables that Egypt currently uses, among other things, to export renewable electricity produced by its enormous solar and hydrogen power producing plants. From 2011 to 2013, a feasibility study was conducted by a joint venture of AECOM and Électricité de France (EDF). The study proposed Grand Inga would be constructed in 7 development phases, with Inga 3 being the first of these phases. Inga 3 itself would be constructed in 2 phases. Initially a low head only to set the stage for establishing a high head extending the dam wall and making it higher. High head dams are favorable and the most efficient. Just for reference, the head is the change in water levels between the hydro intake and the hydro discharge point, which the higher it is, the better. Thus, the higher the head, you have the higher the water pressure across the hydro turbine and the more power it will generate. Another advantage of a higher head dam is the fact that higher water pressure means you can force a higher flow rate through a smaller turbine, and it also means faster rotating turbine and generator, which means lower torque. And because turbine cost is closely related to physical size, it means lower costs. Typically, building a dam requires rerouting the river's course. But in Grand Inga's instance, the Congo River will remain open, with no tunnels or closures planned. For Inga 3, water would be redirected at a rate of around 6,000 cubic meters per second to a valley that runs parallel to the Congo River. It is also anticipated that the construction of the subsequent dams, Inga 4, 5, 6, and 7, will resemble, if not exactly match, that of Inga 3. The ability of the DRC to build this dam is still the more significant concern. The nation hardly has the money to maintain the Inga I and Idi dams, much less build a completely new project the size of the Grand Inga. Put otherwise, there's a very high likelihood that this project will never be completed, but when we include the possibility of foreign funding, the dam begins to seem much more likely. The project might supply electricity to many countries, as well as other regions of Africa. Nigeria and South Africa, among others, have already formally expressed interest in funding a portion of the Grand Inga's electricity. There are ideas that a separate foreign investor may finance each of the dam's 6 power units, receiving ownership of that power plant in exchange. Additionally, the African Development Bank, the World Bank, and the European Investment Bank have provided funds for the project. In addition, the African Union, which promotes collaboration across various African nations, has endorsed the DRC. That being said, there are no assurances. It's possible that the sum of $80 billion raised by these partnerships won't be sufficient to complete the project. The majority of dams cost significantly more than their original projections. A lot of them cost double, which means the Grand Inga Dam could end up costing closer to $160 billion. There's also a massive corruption problem in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, with government officials taking bribes and siphoning other important funds. It makes it even less likely that $80 billion would be enough to finish this project. And there are other issues to worry about, like relocating more than 30,000 local villagers who live in the Bundi Valley.